And then if you exceed $5,000 in one of these platforms, they will send you a 1099K. And the crux of this whole thing is that there is a lot of non-taxable activity that happens between people, like reimbursing for going out to dinner, or my kid's Girl Scout thing has to be paid. There's a lot of people that would get caught at the $600 level that don't have any tax reporting requirement whatsoever on this information. But if there's a 1099K out there, now you have to reflect that in tax return somewhere and say, this is an adjustment to income, it's a Schedule 1 issue, and this is actually not taxable, and it's a whole thing. So at the $600 level, they were estimating that there were going to be 30 million of these 1099Ks out there. And now with $5,000 threshold, there'll be obviously less than 30 million, but they're going to step it down to that $600 threshold in 2026. So we'll see if that actually happens or not, but that's the current thing. So if you have PayPal or Venmo or whatever, and you received at least $5,000, expect one of these 1099s to come in the mail or in your online portal or whatever with those payment processors. And then you have to match it up. So at 5,000, it's more likely that it's business revenue, right? That you're renting out your place on Airbnb, or like I pay my lawn guy on Venmo, so Venmo should be issuing him a 1099K. At 5K, I think that's a reasonable base assumption. There still might be some cases where it's just reimbursements, but then you have to make that argument on your tax return. At 600, though, it's like there's going to be giant amounts of people that have to do this adjustment on their tax return so that there's not a matching issue. Because what happens when you file any tax return is that it gets sent to the IRS, and then in a couple months, usually around August, they will do a matching procedure where it's okay, we've got all this information from taxpayer Joe from third party sources. We've got a tax return from taxpayer Joe. Are all the third party sources reflected in the tax return? If no, you're getting a letter. It's one of these CP 2000 letters. And it's just an automatic letter that goes out and it says, hey, you forgot to include this. Based on our calculations, you owe us money. And sometimes those letters are right, sometimes they're wrong. It just depends. And yeah, if that $600 threshold gets implemented, expect a lot of that. But for right now,
So,
5K is the threshold.
so you do feel like the 1099K change was necessary?
No, it wasn't necessary at all. They just wanted to capture
Response.
they just wanted to capture more people who they think are skirting underneath the limits. So they lowered the limits. Now, how much will that capture? Probably not much, is what it is.